still playing in the background? It shouldn't be. Hopefully that's all done now. But that was quite smooth, I think. For me and myself and I. Welcome everyone to another thrilling, what will be extensially exciting stuff here from me. Welcome to the Family Court College, is what I've called it, powered by the Alienated Dads Network. We're here to guide you through the journey of family court and help you rebuild your life after family breakdown. Literally after family breakdown. Remember, this is the key thing to remember. Treat yourself and others like they matter. Surround yourself with supportive people. Set tangible goals and be efficient. These steps are fundamental in navigating the challenging landscape of family court and rebuilding your life after family breakdown. Tonight, today, this morning, whenever you're watching this, in case you didn't know, it's Apple What's It, Jason the Apple What's It, and you're watching the Alienated Dads Network. Today, we're diving into the deep and complexities of relationships. Now, I'm single. I've been single for a long time. I'm going to remain single for a long time. But I've done a lot of research and done a lot of studying with my clients and whatnot as well. And we're going to be exploring the importance of self-reflection and communication. Have you ever wondered if love is more fulfilling with someone similar, or does it require being your authentic self? Like, compare relationships to parenting. So we're going to see the necessity of addressing issues promptly to avoid long-term resentment. That's something that everyone can do. We'll discuss the Michelangelo effect, where partners help each other realize their potential, and the essential role of judgment in refining oneself in relationship. Imagine relationships as a burning sword from Genesis, eliminating unworthy traits to achieve harmony. That's what you need to see it as. Now, stick around as we talk about finding the mutual game in relationships rather than compromising, because we do compromise. I compromise a lot from my relationship, and dealing with frustrations openly. We deal with frustrations openly, and the importance of setting boundaries. Yeah. Now, these insights are not only for your love life, but it could also be for your personal growth and parenting. We strive to cover all bases. So hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up or whatever you do, and let's dive into this personal growth. Now, if you're feeling uncertain about your relationship, get out of it as far as I'm concerned. But if so, it's time to ask yourself some important questions. For instance, if someone told you that you're a lot like your partner, would you take that as a compliment? Reflect on whether you are truly fulfilled in your relationship or if you're simply less lonely. Can you be unapologetically yourself around your partner? Or do you feel the need to have to change them or to please them? Are you in love with who your partner truly is right now? Or are you more enamored for their potential rather than the ideal version of themselves, rather than who they actually are? And finally, would you want your future child to date someone like your partner? That's a question for you. I've recently encountered a discussion thread on the social media platform that was filled with people facing these like existential crises. They seem to think that putting off difficult decisions about their relationship was somehow noble or virtuous. However, this constant postponement just means hiding issues under the rug, prolonging the inevitable and, well, the discomfort of ending the relationship. The 5 questions I mentioned are essential in examining any relationship. You basically have 2 options. You can break up or you can engage in 1,000 arguments. Each fight, though painful, is an opportunity to make peace and understand each other's role in the relationship better. Remember, you and your partner are different individuals. This difference isn't a call for compromise, but an opportunity to find a better solution rather than compromising. You're integrating your unique skills to create a relationship that neither of you could actually have alone. However, reaching this synergy is difficult. That's why half of all marriages end in divorce, because everyone brings baggage to a relationship. Think of it like disciplining children. Children can be challenging, right? So you might often find yourself annoyed by their behavior. At times, you may even question whether you're being too harsh, or if they're genuinely acting out of character. This is where you having a partner is beneficial. You can ask them from their perspective. For instance, if your child's behaviour annoys you, you can ask your partner, am I being too sensitive? Am I being a dickhead? Or is the child being a dick? Sometimes the answer might be that you're being a dickhead and you're overreacting due to stress or hunger or whatever there might be. But other times your partner might affirm that, yeah, your child's being a dick and, we need to be sorting this out and we need to work together to get this sorted. If you don't manage that child's annoying behaviour, it carries on and on and on and on. And over time, into other aspects of their life. They may annoy their friends, teachers. They may even future employers. You're setting them up for a difficult life, basically. Taking steps to correct this behaviour, despite the short-term emotional distress of it all, might cause a lot of emotional distress, but it's going to be crucial for the child's development. For example, consider a 14-month-old who throws a fit every time their mother steps away. If boundaries aren't set because the mother is still caught up in infant care, the child's domineering behaviour will escalate. Noting that you feel tyrannized by the 14-month-old might be a blow to the ego, but in acknowledging at the same time that correcting this behaviour early prevents bigger issues in the future. This principle of addressing issues head-on, it applies to your partner as well. If I had done the same, then, I don't think I could have done with mine, but if your partner's behaviour annoys you, it's important to figure out whether this annoyance stems from your issues or theirs. This requires an honest discussion, which might feel confrontational. Your partner might convince you that it's your problem, and if that's the case, maybe be prepared to accept it and address it. But if it turns out that the issue is indeed with your partner, it's crucial to address that too. These conversations, they involve a lot of back and forth, but they are necessary, because if you get to the heart of the matter and actually resolve it, then everyone lives happily ever after. Such discussions, though, are rarely straightforward. They often involve a lot of direct and counter exchanges until the real issue comes to surface. This process of digging deep can feel exhausting and uncomfortable, but ultimately it leads to a stronger relationship. Whether dealing with a child or a partner, I think the approach is fundamentally the same. You've got to be consistent, honest communication, and a joint effort to address issues. It's about working together to identify and fix problems, not assign blame and put it all on their doorstep. This mutual effort is what makes for a fulfilling, enduring relationship. In summary, I suppose, what I'm trying to say is, and I think the points you probably want to reflect on the most, is you need to identify personal fulfillment. Are you genuinely happy and fulfilled in your relationship? Or are you just avoiding loneliness? Be yourself. I think, how often do you feel you need to act differently to keep your partner happy? Authenticity is the key in any relationship, along with communication. Love who they are now. Are you in love with who your partner is at this moment in time? Or are you in love with their potential or an idealized version of them? Future projections. Now, would you be comfortable if your future child dated someone like your partner? Confront issues early. Now, just like the children, addressing issues early in a relationship prevents long-term problems. Avoiding difficult conversations can only lead to a more significant conflict down the line. These reflections and conversations can be challenging, and as long as they're had in the right way and not aggressively, they are necessary for any relationship to thrive. But it's about communication. The goal is not to find a compromise, but to work out a solution that brings out the best for both partners. Remember, a successful relationship is a partnership where both play a game together. That they couldn't play alone. It needs to be a partnership, so it needs to be something they do together. So ultimately, the aim is to bolster your relationship with understanding, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to growth and improvement. This honest, proactive approach can turn potential conflicts into opportunities for deeper connection and a stronger relationship. But then maybe you can sort it out. If you manage to sort out enough of those things that you live in, you can end up living in peace. And that's something truly worth attaining, because in my marriage, I always believed that, well, no issue was worth, I couldn't bring up anything. I couldn't address anything. I was always wrong. And then how I communicated that was wrong. I've even I have to apply some of my own rules and what I've learned from my relationship with what I've done with my clients. If someone bothers you, note it down, but don't act on it immediately. If it happens a second time, acknowledge it again, but still hold back. But if it happens a third time, the third time is not a coincidence. The third time is you have to address it directly. And you say, here's what you did. You point out, this is what you did, and you expect them to deny it, obviously. But you can then back it up with, you did it in this situation a few weeks ago or a few months ago, and you did it in this one too. But don't deny it, and notice it. They might have reasons for some of which might be valid, even pointing out that you were being maybe at fault. It's crucial to listen. They might be right, but this is the beginning of solving the problems you need to figure out together. We don't want to treat each other poorly. We aim to create life that's full of best moments and our best dates. That's the good goal, I suppose. And it's attainable, but it requires work. I think there's a scene I saw in Genesis where God expels Adam and Eve from paradise due to their pride, each having their own version of this sin. God places like cherubs of fiery turning swords at the gates of paradise. And this symbolizes that to enter paradise, anything unworthy within you must be burned and cut away. In relationships, this conflict serves to eliminate what isn't suitable for paradise. It must be cast out, destroyed, with only, what's worth remaining. The Michelangelo effect is about partners helping each other become the ideal version of themselves. You help me become the best version of myself within your parameters, and I do the same for you. We communicate and stand our ground on boundaries while compromising. That's what love should be, in my view, and I don't think anyone else sees it that way. Genuine love sees the hidden potential in a person and works to bring it forth, and whilst discouraging anything else that obstructs it. Michelangelo saw David inside a hewn block of marble and then slowly chipped away at it until it emerged. Similarly, we chip away at our rough, uncivilized parts to reveal something more beautiful. This is also reflected in Tao Te Ching, where a child is uncarved, an uncarved block, and only by removing excess does it protection. It remains, basically. Judgment is integral to this process, separating what's worthy from what isn't. True compassion involves wanting the best for someone, which includes judgment to discard the parts that they shouldn't continue. With children, like my daughter, boundaries are vital. Like when she hits me too hard and she's playing, or when she was younger, or when she speaks out of turn, I tell her it's not acceptable. Teaching her the limits of fun and not setting that boundary right there and then would hinder her ability to play well with others in the future. Such discipline, though it seems harsh, is essential. We want her to be a joy to interact with, and if she doesn't learn these boundaries, others won't be as forgiving as what we are. So there's key points that you need to take away from this when you're trying to co-parent with your ex-partner is openly discuss frustrations, note annoyance, but discuss them constructively. Be willing to consider if the issue may also lie within yourself. Establish clear boundaries. Communicate acceptable behavior, similar to how boundaries were set with your children. Focus on solutions and compromises rather than disagreements and fire. Aim to find a mutually agreeable enjoyable game, rather than a compromising one. Approach with compassion and understanding. Listen to each other and try to understand each other's perspectives instead of being defensive. Encourage each other's best version of themselves and adopt the Michelangelo effect by seeing and developing the potential in each other. The essence lies in open and honest and solution-focused communication, grounded in mutual understanding and a shared goal of creating a harmonious family dynamic. That is utopia. But that doesn't always end that way. Half of marriages end in divorce. So then we bring on to the topic of something else that's close to my heart, and that's unfortunately my life experience of parental alienation and messy breakup. Challenges in like navigating the family law system in England and Wales when you're a man is difficult. When you're anyone, it's difficult. Some of you know I went through a difficult divorce with a few years of my life, lots of years of my life being angry. I'm not going to go into detail. You know, it's all over the place, but my ex-wife stitched me up big time, painting a picture that was so far from reality. It was unbelievable, but the truth shone through. Despite my best efforts to present a suitable and normal behaved person, I was emotional and didn't deal with anything in the right way. Protesting in court, all this sort of stuff. That's just didn't do me any favors. It didn't help me in the slightest. I thought I was going to change the world. I didn't, and I couldn't change the world from helping people. Now, when we think about family, we imagine a place of love and support and unity. But when a marriage falls apart, especially one with children involved, it can become a battleground. And in England and Wales, the family law system doesn't always seem equipped to handle the emotional complexities involved. One of the most painful aspects of my journey was witnessing my daughter be used as a pawn. Now, this phenomenon is known as parental alienation, and is one of the when one parent manipulates the child to reject the other parent without justification. Now, that hasn't happened. My ex-wife was not successful in doing that, but she's tried, and she's tried lots of different things throughout the years to try and get that to happen. So far, so good. So we're strong. But that does leave emotional scars on our children. The impact on children can be devastating, leading to emotional and psychological issues that can last a lifetime. Now, again, I've experienced it with my daughter, and I've managed to work through stuff. There's always going to be something to work through, but that's part of being a parent. Navigating the legal system can feel like you're walking through a minefield. In my case, I found myself up against, as many do, false and exaggerated allegations and accusations, and the system that seemed biased from the start. But I question whether it actually really is, or whether it's just my perception of it and how people will communicate with me, because I wasn't used to that. Solicitors, judges, and the entire process can be sort of overwhelming, and at times you feel helpless, despite the hurdles, despite everything. All my issues I had because I was fighting for my daughter, but I was doing it in the wrong way. But my daughter deserved the truth and a fair chance to have a relationship with both parents, because I was out of the picture. I was so far out of the picture, I'm not allowed to go to the house, not allowed to see my daughter, not allowed to do anything for like 4 years. I've spent less than half of Lila's life, half of her 16 years old she is, less than half of her life with her, having quality time with her. The family law in England and Wales needs to evolve to better protect the interests of the children and ensure a fairer process for parents. Parental alienation should be recognised and addressed as a crime, and it should be highlighted more effectively by the court system. Children have the right to love and be loved by both parents. They should not have to suffer manipulation and deceit. In my own relationship, my own situation, I've experienced the devastating impacts of, the failed marriage, which I take my responsibility for in parts where I've made errors. But the overall way that my ex-wife conducted herself and carried out everything to get what she wanted was pure manipulation of the system for her own agenda. I found myself giving away everything, because I wanted to just try and make the peace and ensure that my daughter had everything that she needed. I wasn't going to have her struggle the way that my family struggled when my parents separated. She needed stability. I tried to make amends for even relinquishing the value of the house that I got nothing for, but I put a lot of money in. But for me, my daughter's well-being was paramount and is still paramount. Now, you've got to think, this separation comes with harrowing challenges, not just for the children, but for adults too. But let's focus on the children. Think about this. A few years ago, I faced a health scare. Now, I thought I had testicular cancer. This grim prospect forced me to have a few sobering epiphany, to be honest with you. My greatest fear was not my own mortality, but more the cold reality that upon my death, my daughter Lila, well, she's my next of kin, but she would be prohibited from mourning my passing. And this would be due to her mother's bitterness towards me. It sort of broke me a little bit, to be honest with you. And I still fear that if I get knocked over by a big safe or a piano comes and takes me out, that there could be a difficult time for my daughter and her mum. Because then my daughter will realise what she's missed out on. It breaks my heart to realise that my daughter, my own next of kin, might not even be allowed the dignity of arranging my funeral. And then it dawned on me, the point that if something were to happen to me and my daughter was living with me, then automatically her mum would get sole custody. But then it also dawned on me that if the situation had been reversed, I would have automatically gotten sole custody of my daughter. I was already getting, obviously every other weekend, a standard sort of court order at the time. But then why would it take the death of a parent to convert from an every other weekend contact, part-time babysitter effectively, to having full custody of that child? It has to have a death to have full custody of that child. I don't understand. If that's the case, shouldn't both parents have 50-50 as a result of any separation? And I've said this to Kafkas before. They think it's a bit too draconian or too strict, but I think it should be automatically presumed 50-50. And then if the parties can't agree 50-50, then the children go straight into foster care. You won't always be able to do 50-50 because people work, life goes on. But I think it's about, in the past 11 years, I've done a lot of father's rights campaigning. I've done a lot of learning, a lot of research. And I've helped a lot of people along the way. But this is about a fact that obviously this issue resonates. I've helped over 10,000 people, indirectly and directly. That number is not going away. My phone doesn't stop ringing. People are always asking for help. Why is not one single person doing anything with this? Why does the law not change to support this? Male suicides on the up, continually rising. Teenage suicide continually rising. But no one does anything about it. People are scared to protest. People are scared to do anything because they will get their children taken away from them. I've been doing this, like I say, for around 11 years. But in all that time, I think, and before that as well, it crosses, family law in the Western world crosses gender lines, it crosses racial lines, it crosses political lines, it crosses social economic lines. It affects everybody because we already know that half of all marriages end in divorce. And for children, they have two traumas. Trauma one is, well, mum and dad aren't together anymore. They don't understand why. But they very, very confused because they love both parents. Now, adding to that confusion, you only have only one of them do they get to see on a regular basis. The other one is relegated to the part-time glorified babysitter, a visitor, which makes one parent, in their mind, in the child's mind, more superior, and the person in charge. And the one parent, the inferior parent, now it is the one who's in the right. And the one who's in the wrong, the one who's not there, is the one who's done something wrong. Imagine that to a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old. Or a child that doesn't know how to verbalize this confusion. And we wonder why, when we look at the statistics of crime and sociological stuff, between 70 and 94% of violent crimes, though, incarceration rates, school dropouts, behavioural problems, substance abuse, this can all be tracked. All of it can be tracked. And it's growing. And it's growing, in many cases, it will continue to grow. Because without the father, but this is technically gender neutral, without the father, things go wrong. I'll fight just as hard. I've got female clients, and I work for them, and there's things that go wrong for female clients. And I work equally for both. But the situation can't be solved so easy by starting with a residing parent, someone who has the child in charge and with them. It has to start with 50-50. In every area, every other area of law, we start out with a due process that says innocent until proven guilty. And yet we walk into a courtroom, a family court, and one parent is presumed to have done something wrong, and the other parent has the other upper hand because of it. And that's in most cases. There's going to be anomalies to it, but that's in most cases. Many people that follow me and speak to me and I support, they will tell you the same stories. That's not a coincidence. That's an epidemic. So what can you do? You know what? I didn't have as much animosity for my ex until... This is what we get told. I didn't have as much animosity for my ex until I met my first family law solicitor. They told me to look at the country, look at everything. You're probably not going to get 50-50. It's very hard to get 50-50. One of you needs to win and one of you needs to lose. So unless you want to be the one that loses, you better start digging on all that dirt and all that crap that you want to get put out. And that's what starts the conflict. And by the time these couples are finished in family court, because one has to prove that they're better than the other, which you don't, because it creates this adversarial relationship. And that's why these court cases are dug out for 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, not even seeing the children for sometimes for a year before you even get something sorted. That's why we just exist. I settled. I didn't want to, I thought I was going to keep the peace, but people are settling because they need to settle because they can't afford a family lawyer. They don't want to put up with the stress. They'll take what they've got. They'll take what they're given. But that's, again, a sign of an epidemic. And no one was doing anything about it because men need to be broken. People don't want men being masculine and strong. There's just top 1% want men being broken down and destroyed, so they can't do anything that's manly, like i.e. topple a government. I mean, you can imagine how different it would be if those parents who would walk into a solicitor's office and the first words out of the solicitor's mouth were, look, automatically, you're going to get 50-50. It's 50-50 automatically. If you can't do 50-50 or the husband can't do 50-50, then we have to work out what's workable and feasible for both. Because if you can't, your kids are going to go into foster care. So together you're shown, and you have to co-parent you have to co-parent, because if you're at war, then that's going to impact the children negatively. So then both parents have to co-parent, unless there's signs of both parenting and co-parenting. I don't know if any of that makes sense to anybody, but hopefully it does. That's just my opinion on what needs to happen for the sake of the children. Instead of people wasting all their money on solicitors and court fees, they can start paying for their children to go to university and exceed and achieve stuff in life, instead of one parent being ripped out of the child's life. And so to continue on a path and not in any way putting down anyone who speaks, or any of my peers, anyone who does the same as what I do, but to think that we're doing okay with our children in England and Wales. And to think that people are settling and everything's fine, it's almost like Mr. Magoo down the street thinking that everything's fine while nothing is fine at all. And everybody's running off the road because he's cutting everyone up and he doesn't realise anything, doesn't have a clue. That's the situation here. People don't have a clue for some reason, or maybe they do and they're not doing anything about it. So I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this. It's been quite a long one. Hopefully you made it this far. If you did make it this far, then you deserve a biscuit. Or a cup of milk. I wouldn't actually drink milk, to be honest with you, but a biscuit's quite good. Any parents who watch this, mum or dad, just put the conflict to bed. Just put it aside and leave it there. Because right now, you're normalising abuse within the relationship, within the family dynamic. And if you've got children and it's a daughter, your daughters are more susceptible to attracting abusive relationships and being in abusive relationships. And if you've got a boy, then you're normalising abuse and they're seeing this abuse and they're going to go out and reenact it because that's what they think is normal in relationships. So when one of you are blaming the other and the other one's blaming the other, you're both doing it. You're both part of the problem and you both need to stop it. Peace and love. Liar's Glove.